Hello, welcome to Board Deck and Dice. This is a how to play video for Awesome. Awesome is a prototype game of an upcoming Kickstarter. So what you see here is prototype components, yet still a lot of the components are very good in quality, particularly the tiles, cards and the minecarts. So let's just run through what you get in the game. In the game you get a bag of ore, which on your dig phase you will be blindly drawing out of, and the ore comes in 3 different colours, which is copper, silver and gold. You also get these wooden beams, so when you go around the mine you'll have the chance to blow up things, and these are used to block your opponents. You get a round counter with a marker to keep track of the rounds, a first player marker. You get 4 player characters, each with their own dice and minecart. And the minecarts are just brilliant at this stage. They're 3D printed at this stage, but they're going to be moulded parts when the Kickstarter funds. You get Scraps the dog, which just sits in a mine should you get a card that lets you have him, and he's very useful. You get a load of coins, tiles that you construct the mine from, a reference card, a bank prices card, action cards, and then contract cards for Mark Ortland and Baron Pierce, and they each have their own meeple, and these meeples will move around the mine, and you have to be within a certain amount of spaces to fulfill their contracts, which are more lucrative than the bank. And the aim of the game is to move around the mine, digging for ore, and then using this ore to either sell, make money from the bank or from the contracts. The person with the most money after 6 rounds for a normal game or 8 rounds for a long game wins the game. So let's have a look at some of the concepts before we show you how to set up properly for your first game. So here we have a mini track set up just to show you how movement works. On your turn you will enact the move phase, then the dig phase, and during those phases each players will do their actions in player order. But the first thing that happens is Mark Ortland and Baron Pierce move, and I'll show you how that movement works when we set up the full board. Then each player will take their dice, roll it, and this dice will goes between 1 and 3, and that dictates how much they're going to move their cart. And what they're looking to do is wherever they stop is where they will dig in the next phase. If they dig on a tile that doesn't match their colour, they take 2 ore out of the bag and they drop it into their cart. Now there's a slight dexterity element here, because if any fall out of the cart when you're dropping them in, then you will just leave them on the tile where they drop, or if they fall off the board you will put them onto the nearest tile. So let's say we're a few goes in and everyone's got a bit more ore in. So in that case I just drop that there, that would stay there on that tile. And let's put 1 more on each. Now the first thing to say about moving is when you're moving your cart, if any ore falls out, similarly to when you're loading your cart, then it stays where it lands, or it goes on the nearest tile if it falls off the board. When it comes to movement, you'll generally follow the tracks along. So if I get 3 with the blue cart, I can go 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, and because I dropped that, that would stay there. And basically you follow the track, so you can't change direction mid-turn. If I was here I couldn't go 1, 2 and then come back 3 this way. You have to keep going the same way and follow the tracks. Like I say, what you're trying to do is get to the same colour tiles as you, because then you will draw for 4 ore instead of 2 ore. The other thing to bear in mind when moving is called shunting. If you are moving and there is a cart in your way, you shunt that cart in front of you along the track. If any of the ore is above the level of the side of the cart, then that will fall out one at a time as you shunt. So if I move this cart 1, 2, it will shunt, the top ore will fall out. But then if either of these carts shunt each other again, no ore will fall out because it's level with the top of the cart. That is a basic guide to movement and how movements and the track works. There are cards that allow you to change your movement, and they always have a rail on them so you know what to do. They can be played at the movement phase and have this rail on to show you that they move. The other cards in the game are dig cards, which have this on, which can also be used in the move phase if it makes sense to, especially the ones that let you remove rubble. Rubble and wooden beams are interchangeable in this version of the game. And there's the surprise cards, which can be played as a response to another one. So this one stops someone stealing from you, and others can mess with other players. So that's the movement phase. The dig phase, as I've said, first thing you will do, or you'll do you'll do three things in any order. You'll dig for ore, remember 2 on a different colour to your cart, 4 on a cart, on a mine tile that is the same colour. You can then either bank ore, selling at the bank prices, so copper for 1, silver for 2, gold for 3, or you can try and fulfill a contract with Mar, Cortland, or Baron Pierce. You can only do one contract or bank, so that's a choice. And then you can pick up any ore in your tile. So in this case, if I'm blue, I pick that up. I'd have a look at my contracts with Mar, Cortland, and Baron Pierce, and I'd see that I haven't quite got enough to fulfill any of those contracts. If I did have, I would have to check that I was within space of the relevant meeple, so you have to be within 4 spaces that she could walk along the tracks, or Baron Pierce, to you. So if I was here, I am 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 away from Mar Cortland. I was just about to marry her off to Baron Pierce, and I would not be able to fill that contract. However, I'm only 1 away from the Baron, and I could fulfill that contract if I had the relevant ore. They are much more lucrative than the bank, so you want to be fulfilling contracts if you can. When you fulfill a contract, you simply tip out all your ore, take the ore that fulfills the contract and put it back in the ore bag, and then stack your minecart back up how you like it. At the end of the dig phase, you can discard as many cards as you want, including your contract cards, and then draw back up to 5. So should you want to, you can draw back up more contract cards and leave out the actions, although that may leave you weak to attack and not as flexible. Or you can just go for 1 contract card, or you can get rid of a contract card that you've been having trouble to fulfill. So those are the actions in the game. After all those actions, the next round will start. So next I'm going to show you how to set up the board and each player, and how Mar, Cortland and Baron Pierce move on the full board. To start a game of Awesome, you will give each player a colour card of their player, their matching colour dice, a reference card, the minecart of the same colour. You will give them 1 contract card for Baron Pierce and 1 for Lady Cortland, Mar Cortland, sorry, I've promoted her, and you will also give them 3 action cards. They will also take one of the mine tiles of a different person's colour, and this is important for setup. So the only one this player can't take is green, but she must take a colour of a player who is in the game. So if blue's not playing, she can't take the blue tile. So that is everything each player will need before the game starts. To start building the mine, you will seek out the central mine tile and the 4 corners of each player's colour, which will act as the starting tiles for each player. You are building a 5x5 grid, and to do so you will take the remaining tile cards and mix them together and turn them face down, and you'll give each player, remember, a different colour tile than what they are playing. Then each player will take a turn in player order, choosing whether they want to play the colour tile in front of them or a tile from the stack, and they will build the mine. The advantage of playing your colour tile is that you are trying to make it as difficult as possible for the green player to get their bonus digs. So you would want to put this somewhere where it's going to be quite difficult for them to get it. So in that case, I'm going to put that one like that. Then let's say we come to the next player, they decide to take one blind. Now when you're placing tiles, it doesn't matter if they go off the track, but you must place them so that roots connect. So here we have roots going all the way across, and they all add up and match, so that is fine. You can place them any way around as long as you're not putting in a dead end apart from going off the track. So we have various different tiles. So for example, this tile here doesn't have has a dead end, so that could not go there. It could go like that because there's nothing coming in this side, and so on and so on. When it comes down to it, if you have a tile you can't place, you simply redraw until you get a tile that you can place. So this goes on until can't place that there, but I could place it there until the mine is built. So I'll carry on building it and fast forwarded it, and then we'll get on to seeing how the non-player characters work. So here we have our constructed mine. You'll take each player's cart and place them on their starting tile. You will place the bag of ore nearby. You will also place the money tokens nearby, the round counter where everyone can see it. You will place the supply of wooden beams and scraps the dog nearby and give the first player marker. You will then take Mar, Cortland and Baron Pierce and pop them on the board. Before the players roll their dice to move, you will move Mar, Cortland and Baron Pierce, and the way they move is thus. Baron Pierce will always move towards the richest cart. In cases of ties, he will go towards the start player. So at the first turn of the game, there's no richest player. Let's say start player's red, and they move 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. Mar Cortland moves towards the poorest player. In the case of ties, she moves towards the youngest player. Let's say that's blue. 1, 2, 3. Now, should there be any wooden beams on the board, either across a whole tile or blocking an entrance or exit, that affects your distance from the character meeples and other things. So, if Baron Pierce is here, I must be able to get to him with 4 spaces around the obstruction. He cannot get over the obstruction. And when you're placing these rubble wooden beams, then they must be placed on a space that doesn't have anything already in, an empty space. So you can't cheat like my wife did and block me in quite the way she did. It has to be a bit predictive. So there's your setup. Each player will then roll their dices and move their carts, looking to shunt other players out of the way whilst getting to their colour tiles to do the most effective digging, to then sell those contracts using the action cards as we've seen, just to mix things up a little bit. That is awesome. That's enough to get you going on your first game. Hope you've enjoyed this how to play video, and we'll see you again soon on Board, Deck and Dice.